Greetings, kindred. So here we are at the full moon, which is occurring on May 12th at 17:55 here in the GMT time zone, at 12:55 in the EDT time zone, and the full moon will reach its peak on May 13th at 2:55 in the AEDT time zone. So as the full moon reaches its peak, it will be at 14 degrees in Libra. So, the moon in Libra is actually a wavering moon. I consider it a wavering moon, but with this moon, it's very important for our emotional well-being that we are in peaceful and harmonious relationships. Now, remember, this is a global report, so this is all about global relationships, although, it can affect us on an individual level as well. So this may apply on a personal level, but it will definitely apply on a global level. So as we can see, global relationships are very kind of up in the air at the moment. And, but there is this recognition that good relationships globally are very important. Now, the moon is also in conjunction with Juno, who's in retrograde right now. So Juno's, doing a lot of reflection in the relationship area of life. And in Libra, I would say it's more about business partnership, global partnerships and stuff like that. So there's a lot of thought and reflection being put into this. And, the problem I see here, apart from all these T-squares going on and grand crosses, etc., is that this yod with Jupiter, who's still transiting through Taurus at the moment, is in sextile to Chiron, the wounded healer, who's coming towards the last degrees of Pisces now. So, this sextile does really bring in a lot of opportunity for happiness, building on our self-worth and our confidence, overcoming any doubts, being in a more positive frame of mind, especially when it comes to resources. And it's also about embracing new perspectives, especially when it comes to healing relationship wounds or healing kind of past experiences that have not been so positive. But because it's in this yod aspect towards the moon and Juno, it really does show, that this is a highly sensitive time where there's a lot of misunderstandings and a lot of mistrust due to past experience or, Juno can also represent contracts or promises that have been made. And definitely in Libra, like I said, it's all about partnerships and bringing balance to that. But this yod aspect really does portray instability, a lack of reliability and missed opportunities as well. So there's, confidence is not there with this yod aspect. There is no confidence there, so there is no settlement. And that can really kind of, affect the Libran energy when it comes to emotional well-being. So, on the whole, it does look like, things are a little bit rough at the moment and very, very fragile. So we also have this Chi aspect as well with Uranus in trine to the South Node, in trine to Pluto. The Sun is also in conjunction with Uranus And here we have the sun coming towards the last degrees of Aries now. So this is very fiery, very impulsive sun. And Uranus is in Taurus, which is all about resources, the economy, traditions. So when Uranus and the sun come together, it really can be a very rebellious energy, can be a very combusting energy as well. And the sun being at 23 degrees, so I mean, 23 breaks down to 5, which is a very shifting energy, and it's a very hard working energy as well. So there could be a lot of work going into this. And 3 is also about expansion. So with the sun in Aries and Uranus in Taurus, it shows that things can get out of control, and there's a great need here for grounding. To me, when Uranus comes into, or the sun comes into conjunction with Uranus, to me it reminds me of like the Nutty Professor, but it's also represents the mercenary, or it can be like scientific breakthroughs or enforcements that come forward as well. And with Uranus in trine to the South Node, that's where changes can come out of the blue, especially when it comes to like social reform. And we also got Pluto here involved as well. And Pluto's in retrograde now. So with the sun in trine to Pluto, it's very transformative, or even a regenerative energy. It does hold tremendous willpower, but it can also be very manipulating and dominating. And again, with Uranus in trine to Pluto, which is a generational aspect, it's all about reformation of civilizations, but it's also like a rebirth kind of energy as well. So we've got a lot of like shifting, rebirthing energy going on here. Although it can be very forceful, very dominating, so it can be quite an uncomfortable time for many. But on top of the kite, we also have generational aspects like Neptune is sextile to Pluto, and Neptune is sextile to Uranus, and this is all about world karma and mass destiny and idealism. I feel there's going to be a lot going on in this full moon cycle, with maybe new contracts or new structures, in our traditions, in our maybe even our economy, that we may be witness to over the next couple of weeks. We've also got Neptune coming into conjunction with Saturn as well. I mean, Saturn's on top of Neptune here, but they're not quite exact yet. I mean, when Neptune and Saturn are in conjunction, and I mean, it's already in effect, this conjunction, although it's not exact until, I think, June 29th. And this conjunction only happens every 36 years. This is all about bringing dreams into reality, but it's also a transformation of like global politics, so it's going to be a very tense year with this aspect coming in. It can create a little bit of depression as well. It can also be an energy of secrets or behind the scenes activity. So the last time Saturn and Neptune came into conjunction was March 1989. And this last time it occurred in Sagittarius, this time it's occurring in Pisces. Now, Jupiter is co-ruler. Even though Jupiter rules Sagittarius, Jupiter was originally the ruler of Pisces. So there's a strong Jupiterian energy here. And, with Jupiter in Taurus, it's all about finances, economy, it's all about luxury, it's all about well-being, in more of a material sense or even in a spiritual sense. And the last time these two come into conjunction, I mean, that was when we had the breakup of the Soviet Union. We had the Velvet Revolution in Central Europe. We also had the Kosovo crisis. So it was a very tense year then, and that's what this energy creates. So this is more active now. So where we've had, these generational aspects coming into effect with Uranus and Pluto, so it's like an escalation when these two planets to come together. I mean, Saturn can ground Neptune's like off planet, building castles in the sky energy, and Neptune can actually counteract Saturn's strict, authoritarian energy and that depression that the Saturn energy can carry, maybe Neptune can lighten that. So there is a positive to this as well, especially since Neptune's in his own sign of Pisces. So Neptune is the stronger one here, but we do have Pluto in Capricorn and Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. So Pluto can really make things feel a little bit dark at times, But overall, I do feel like there's going to be some major breakthroughs or some major changes happening once this full moon reaches its peak. And going over the next few weeks or the next few months, remember we're still in the eclipse energy as well. So, our moon is also making a T-square. So we have the moon, like I said, in opposition to Uranus and the sun, which the moon is always in opposition to at a full moon. And they're making a T-square towards Pallas, who's in Capricorn, in the last degrees of Capricorn, actually. So with the moon in opposition to Uranus, I mean, this can be kind of a little bit unstable. It can create a lot of mood swings, nervous tension, but it can also create irritability. It can also create an irresponsible attitude. So it can be quite perverse, this moon Uranus opposition. And with Juno in opposition to Uranus, this is like breaking free of commitments, but, being rebellious against convention. And the challenging aspects to this is like with the moon in square to Pallas, it can be very challenging when it comes to relationships or, definitely social relationships. It can be a clash of emotions as well. The mind and the heart are not in balance. And with Juno in square to Pallas, that creates a lot of friction in relationships as well. And Uranus square Pallas, it's like we need to think outside the box to get the change that we need, So there's like a double connotation here, because as much as I'm seeing it as a global situation, I do feel there's, stuff going on within like intimate or interpersonal relationships as well. So just be aware of that, because if the energy is quite irritating with some people, then I feel like we need to do some deep breathing techniques or keep ourselves grounded, because we can often be affected as an individual by the environmental energies. But we do have a strength of will with this, because, the opposite sign to Pallas in this T-square is the sign of Cancer. So, Cancer, I mean, even though they say Cancer is quite a vulnerable sign, there is a strength, a core strength with Cancer, and it's all about self-preservation. And in its maturity, it can offer us a lot of wisdom. So if we can tap into that energy and hold fort with that, then I feel like we can come up with some really good solutions if we are able to think outside the box. So I do feel like the energies of this full moon are making people feel quite exhausted, because it's quite exhausting energy. But if we can tap into that regenerative side of it, it's like there's definitely some kind of rebirthing going on here. And I feel it's going to be kind of sudden. So there's going to be some sudden shifts and changes with the energies coming in this full moon. Now we also have the Black Moon Lilith, who's in conjunction to Vesta. Now this conjunction here is definitely, again, all about self-worth and a need for us to curb our desires. It's where we can be a little bit too self-focused. And with the Black Moon Lilith in opposition to Mercury here, we can have little temper tantrums. Do you know what I mean? Like speaking off the cuff without thinking first, especially with Mercury in Aries. It can be very impulsive, like just speaking out without thinking about what we're saying first. So we have to be careful of that. But also with this energy, we have to take responsibility in our part in any kind of dilemma we might find ourselves in. We need to be responsible for the part we played in that scenario. So this full moon is really showing us that, we really need to get into our core strength. We really need to think before we speak. Our minds can change a little bit, or emotions can change, can fluctuate, especially with the moon in opposition to Uranus, and with the moon being in Libra. It's like we can be easily swayed with this moon. So I think that's what we're going to be seeing out there when it comes to our global political movements. I just feel there's a lot of to and froing going on in the public eye. But behind the scenes, there's also a lot going on that we don't know about as well. So hopefully resolutions can be made, although it's a very sensitive time right now. So I don't feel there's going to be any kind of breakthroughs as such when it comes to relationships and bringing more balance into them. But I do feel it's going to be a time of like high energy where we need to keep ourselves grounded. We need to think outside the box and be prepared for shifts and changes that may be coming into the social scene. But anyway, kindred, I'm going to leave it there. I'm working on the horoscopes at the moment, and I shall let you know when they're all out. But in the meantime, I will link the horoscopes I've done up until the 14th of May below. And as always, I'm sending you all peace and much love. Take care.